are living in a computer-programmed reality, and the only clue we have to it is when some variable is changed and some alteration in our reality occurs. We would have the overwhelming impression that we were reliving the present, déjà vu, perhaps in precisely the same way, hearing the same words, saying the same words. I submit that these impressions are valid and significant, and I will even say this: such an impression is a clue that at some past time point, a variable was changed, reprogrammed as it were, and that because of this, an alternative world branched off.
Welcome to another rendition of 15 Minutes of Flame. I'm Robert Phoenix, and I'll be lighting your fuse actually for the next 13 minutes and 2 seconds. Since that intro takes longer than I thought it did, really puts it in perspective when you only have 15 minutes to talk and the music takes up about 2 minutes of it. I might have to rethink that. Well, here we are. It's another day in the bizarre world of American politics and the electoral process with Hillary Clinton out of action, MIA, or is she? Fox News has reported that she's going to appear today, and if she appears, who is it that is going to appear actually? Because what happened in New York on 9/11 was absolutely bizarre, and perhaps a little bit symbolic in and of its own right. And when I say right, I say R-I-T-E and maybe a little R-I-G-H-T. I want to talk about Trump, and I want to talk about the bait and switch that I think is about to take place, just like we've seen a bait and switch with Hillary. But I just want to focus a little bit on Hillary because from a symbolic perspective, what we had during the fall of the Twin Towers, which again, the information has been completely obfuscated and just buried over, just like the Twin Towers themselves. We're dealing with a false narrative. It was the Saudis, it was this, it was that. There were actual planes. There weren't. There were no planes. Just disabuse yourself of that notion. Did people die? Yes, I think people died as a result of 9/11. We've had a series of false flags where many people have not died. Now, why was what happened with Hillary significant at the 9/11 spot where, by the way, it was also the anniversary of Benghazi? So we're talking about two events. We're talking about the Benghazi event. We're talking about 9/11. This is representative of the Twin Towers duality and the collapsing of two variant timelines into one congruent timeline that is based on the World Freedom Tower, or the One World Freedom Tower. Now, if indeed Hillary Clinton was not Hillary Clinton at the 9/11 memorial, if she was a replacement, it represents two Hillarys, just as we saw two towers. And if you know anything about the Twin Towers and how they were constructed, they were hollow. They were meant to fall. They were meant to collapse. Do a little research on it. It's not that hard to find out. And so what we saw with Hillary was literally a collapse, a fall before she gets into the black van. And then she magically reappears outside of Chelsea's apartment with the little girl. Incredibly bizarre. No Secret Service, no protection. This rarely happens. So in my estimation, the Hillary that we saw coming out of Chelsea's apartment was a double. And I'm fairly convinced now that the woman that was being shoved into the van was a double as well. Now, I don't think it was the double that has played Hillary Clinton in celebrity events, makes about $100,000 a year. The woman from, I believe, from Georgia or North Carolina. She was actually at another celebrity event with other celebrity impersonators singing. It was a very bizarre thing that she was actually in the news at the time that this so-called double surfaces. So we have this strange kind of anomaly, this strange reflection, a mirror. Just like the Twin Towers, just like Gemini, just like duality, we have more than one Hillary. Now, what's happened to her since then? This engenders a great deal of speculation. Is she sick? Is she dead? Is she no longer a part of the plan? Well, we're about to be thrown into chaos. We're already there now, but the election process could be completely scuttled. I've heard a number of things. I've heard that Trump will be replaced. I've heard that Obama will continue to be the president for an interim period of time and will be promoted to be a longer-term president. Remember, we only have 8 judges on the Supreme Court. Now, it's a very bizarre kind of dynamic to go into an election with. You know, not only do we have a candidate who is clearly unfit, and Hillary Clinton is clearly unfit, she may not even be around anymore. And whoever we see, whoever appears, I'm not sure it's going to be Hillary Clinton, if she does. But let's say this all plays out, and let's say that the elections do go off, or they go off in a delayed fashion later in November. We're dealing with Mercury retrograde. Why wouldn't the election be delayed? Why wouldn't they be called off for a while? But let's say this all plays out and Trump retains his position, remains the candidate of the Republican Party, and if they bring out Biden, if they bring out Michelle Obama, who knows? I know it will be Bernie Sanders. Maybe, hey, look, it's a Mercury retrograde. I could be proven wrong. But I don't think the globalists want Bernie. I don't think the bankers want Bernie. Bernie's got very definitive ideas about banks, and they don't jive with Goldman Sachs, which is why they pushed Hillary for such a long period of time. But let's say this all plays out, and Trump is the de facto winner. Now, here is where we get to the kernel, the nut of today's 15 Minutes of Flame. What if everybody who's been cheering on Trump, from the borderline nationalist, neo-fascist, yet very funny people on the alt-right, the millennial youth, let's get that right, the millennial youth on the alt-right, to the deplorables, the basket of deplorables, the working class people, the vox populi, who Trump has ignited, whose switch he's found and turned on, the silent generation or the silent majority. What if all of these people are being completely played? And what if the New World Order looked very different than how we would imagine it going into this election? Because how we all saw the evolution of the New World Order, and we all are looking out for this massive totalitarian superstructure that wants to come in and control everything from your first breath to your ultimate and physical death. Every step away along this mortal coil, every transaction, every thought, every feeling, monitored, tracked, biometrically classified and sealed. This is really what the New World Order is about. It is a world without any kind of freedom whatsoever. It is Orwell's vision defined. 1984, panoptical, And emotions will be limited within that scope. Emotions will be defined as being a certain set of parameters. What do I mean by that? Well, let's say, for instance, you have a thought or you have a feeling that is contrary, and that if it expresses itself, if it manifests itself, if you emote, there is a biometric marker that maps you as a threat to the status quo, the harmony, and the hegemony of the order that's been established. Now, we all have been looking at Clinton or Obama. Maybe we're looking in the wrong place, and I might even be a bit guilty of this myself. But it's been dawning on me as I've been watching more and more of Alex Jones, more and more of Trump, that the New World Order might just actually be the thing that we think we've been fighting with, that we've been walking arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder against the oncoming tyranny of the political correct, communistic, new Bolsheviks, and the social Marxists. What happens if Trump is elected and he is the Mussolini of our time? Because I'll tell you one thing about Donald Trump, and he has said this again and again and again throughout his campaign, that he wants more security, that our security isn't good enough. We need more information. And what does he mean by that? He means that we need vast amounts of data points, vast amounts of surveillance, that the surveillance level needs to be dialed up. Now, here's what I think. If Trump is elected, I think we'll get maybe 2 years until Uranus goes into Taurus. This is a big marker, a big astrological marker when it comes to the economy. Kids are already getting used to biometrics in schools, having to swipe their finger for a lunch, having to have their eye scanned for some form of security, Disney World, whatever. Our children are being programmed to be processed biometrically, because biometrics is going to be the new conveyance of cash. Now, this is going to happen when Uranus is in Taurus. We will probably get, if Trump is elected, this is an if, because we're in a very fluid situation right now. We have all these planets that are in mutable states. Jupiter just went into a cardinal state in Libra, so we're having cardinal, mutable, cardinal, mutable. There's no fix until Uranus goes into Taurus and Jupiter goes into Scorpio. That's next year, and then the year after that. We begin to get more fixed energy. That's a whole different discussion. But what happens in the next interim or the next 2 years, I think things will probably look pretty good. I think people will get a sense of, hey, we turned the tide, we pushed back the subtle, soft, sneering, sniveling tyranny, and we'll have our day. And it will last, but it will not last long. And I think what will happen is that slowly the screws will turn. Now, remember, the internet is being taken over at the end of the month. There are major things happening already. Google took away Google Hangout, Google Live Streaming. It's gone. It is gone. I think it's gone in about 4 or 5 days. This is in anticipation of what's happening, what's coming with the UN controls on our ability to share information freely. It is a harbinger and a sign of things to come. So at the end of this 15 minutes, I want you to think about Donald Trump, Alex Jones, the new alt-right in a slightly different way. Because it's always good to question. It's always good to discern what's real and to stay open to what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. This has been your 15